my whole purpose is to live and work in a prosperous environment that encourages productivity and pleasure so that we can be better equipped to serve our family, our company, our community, our nation, and ultimately the world. I like to lead people to the truth that lies within themselves.
Well, Bob, you've got a phenomenal story of how you kind of got started in all of this. So can you share a little bit about that, how you got started? And I know that, even way back in the day, like you even dropped out of high school. So just take us a little bit through your story and how you've impacted so many people.
Well, I think I was like a lot of young guys. I was just wandering around, lost until I was 26. I went to high school for 2 months. I didn't leave. They asked me to leave. I was as happy as they were, though, when they asked me. I hated school. Nobody ever got me to like it. I worked at dumb jobs. I just took anything I could get. And I was an unhappy human being. And I was fortunate when I was 26, I met a man who saw something in me that I obviously didn't see in myself. And he said that if I would do exactly what he told me, I could have anything I wanted. Well, of course, I didn't believe that, but I believed he believed it. The guy spoke with such conviction. And he asked me if I read anything, and I said, no, I can't read. Now, that wasn't true. I could, not well, but I could. And he gave me this book. I've got it. I've been reading this book for 55 years. Wow. And I read it every day. It's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've got a big elastic around it so it doesn't fall apart. And I started to read it, and everything in my life changed. He got me to sit down and think of what I wanted. All I wanted was some money. And he said, well, how much money do you want? Oh, I said, anything would have been a lot. I was earning $4,000 a year and I owed $6,000. So, it was a hopeless situation. But like I say, I think a lot of people live like this. Yeah. If I had taken every cent I earned for 18 months and paid debts, I would have just broken even. Nothing to live on. So I couldn't see the light. I just couldn't see it at all. But he said, listen, forget all that. That's why you can't do it. Read this book. And of course, Hill tells you there's a secret in the book. And he said, if you can find the secret in the book, you can get you seriously want. And he tells you to write your goal on a card. So I wrote my goal on a card, and I've been carrying a card in my pocket with my goal on it ever since. Yeah. That's 55 years ago. And I wrote on it that I wanted $25,000. I didn't believe I could get it. I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. But I kept reading the card. Now, years later, I look back and I realized what I had done. I went from thinking of debt and having to pay bills. I started to think of earning money. Now, the natural question there is, well, weren't you thinking of earning money? No, I wasn't. I was thinking of debt. People who are in debt and have a goal of getting out of debt will probably stay in debt forever. And because whatever you think about, that's what's going to happen. Well, somebody said there was good money cleaning floors. I started to hear people talk about earning money, and I started to think about it. And I said, I'm not proud, I'll clean floors. So I started cleaning offices. I got one office to clean at $15 a time, and I cleaned it twice a month. Then I got another one at $65. Well, by the end of the year, I had my income at $175,000. Then I took it over $1 million. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. The thing took off like a rocket. I never stopped studying this book. Then I got into Earl Nightingale's condensed narration of the book, and I got into studying all of Earl's stuff. And so I have thought about this, and I don't think it would have mattered what I was doing. I was going to win because I was following the right direction. I did exactly what I was told. But I had to ask myself, how is this happening? I was earning all kinds of money. I was living in England at the time. I had opened an office there. And I thought, there's something strange here. A lot of people have read Think and Grow Rich. They weren't doing what I was doing. There's a lot of people cleaning offices, but they weren't doing what I was doing. Right. And I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you got to be really smart. Well, I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't get a good job. I didn't have a good job. I owned the company. So I started to really question all my beliefs. Right. And I found that most of them wouldn't hold water. Yeah. And made up my mind I was going to find out what happened. And I started to study. It took me 9.5 years. And when I finally got the dots to connect, all I wanted to do was teach it.
Yeah.
And I've even found out why I wanted to teach it. You don't enjoy anything until you share it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. You get a new suit or a new dress or a new car or a new microphone. You want to share it, you know?
Right.
And all I wanted to do was teach this to people because I knew that if I could do it, anybody could do it. I mean, I had nothing going for me that everybody didn't have going for them.
Yeah. And
I got carried away with it. I've gone into prisons. I spent 5 years, I'd go in one Saturday a month for 5 years, maximum security. And I watched people change their lives. I had them paroled to me, they've changed their lives. We were picking up people out of the park and we'd wash them and we'd watch people. We wouldn't let them out of our sight. I was thinking, will this work for anybody? And those people's lives changed. I've gone into companies like Prudential Insurance, the largest company in the world back in the early 70s. We raised their sales by hundreds of millions of dollars. And you know, it's a strange thing, Shawn. I found that when I found out why I changed, I found out hardly anybody knows why they're winning.
Yeah.
Large corporations do not know why their stars are stars. And so they can't, if they knew, they can't give it to everybody. And that's what I've spent the last 40-some years doing. I love it.
And doing it very successfully, you know, at a high level. And you've impacted the lives of so many people. You impacted my life, definitely, far before this conversation. And, you know, I love the fact that this was really brought by the revelation that anything that we want or that we want to have in our lives, it's not worth having until we share it. And the example that you gave of, you know, even if it's a suit, because you don't get a new suit and you put it on, you look in the mirror like, wow, this looks great. I'm going to go take a nap in it. You don't necessarily have to go out and connect with people, but, you know, you could take a selfie and share it on social media, but you still want to share it. And it's so valuable.
If you're looking at a sunset alone, it looks good. But if you're there with somebody to say, look at that, well, they're looking at it. You're telling them to it's sharing. You've got to share it.
Yeah.
Or you don't enjoy it.
So true. You know, and this is so important because, you know, you brought up that your driving force in the beginning, and it's evolved since then, but it was to get out of debt, you know, and you shifted over to making abundance, making enough money to do and have and be all the things that you want. And our financial health is really important. This is the Model Health Show. And we're talking about all the aspects of life that contribute to your health. And your financial health matters, especially in this world today. It's a huge stressor for people because, you know, your finances are really what help to drive you being able to do things. You know, it's an exchange of energy for sure, but it's just the way that our society is built, whether you like it or not. If you
it's a medium of exchange that you use for other people's products and services.
Right.
I see money only used for two things. One is to make you comfortable. The more comfortable you are, the more creative you can become. And the second one is to extend the good you do far beyond your own presence. And you want to, like, our company's locked in. We build schools in Africa. And we got into this about 4 years ago, and we love it. We build a school every 2.5 weeks. Our goal is to build one every day. And we do it through Cynthia Kersey's, the Unstoppable Foundation. In fact, in a couple of days, we've had, first I have a partner, Sandy Gallagher, who is a brilliant lady. She runs a company. She went over about 3-4 years ago with Cynthia Kersey. We built them in Kenya. And they get in, and she saw what was going on. Last year, we sent Corey Kelly, another gal in our company, with her 15-year-old daughter. And she went over. Every May, Cynthia Kersey goes, and so we send somebody with her. This year, Gina, my assistant, and Kim Klein, who's in our finance area, they went. And Gina had me crying when she came back. She had me on the phone. She said, Bob, if you could only see the good that we're doing there. And she went on and on. So the group of them that have been there are going to put on a presentation to everybody in the company so the whole company can really get involved in what we're doing.
Yeah,
And that's where we get our greatest joy.
Right, yeah. I've actually contributed to Unstoppable as well.
Oh,
And
it's an organization.
that really helped me personally because I didn't grow up with much at all. Very interesting story, of course. Oftentimes for Christmas, I haven't talked about this on the show before, but for a lot of Christmases, we would get free gifts from this, basically a food shelter. So like for 3 years in a row, we got the same gift. I kept getting Yahtzee every year, but I never learned how to play. We just play like craps or something with the dice. We're like 10 years old, 11 years old. And, so just different interesting situations like this. So we didn't grow up with much. So kind of getting out of that paradigm of struggle was difficult in the beginning because I would do things to, help a lot of people and receive a lot coming back. But I find a creative way to lose it, because I didn't change my thermostat for this stuff. So what really helped to serve me in my thinking was I can have so much more to contribute by building myself up financially, my financial health as well. And this is one of the big things that, really comes across in your new book, which I read through and I just devoured it, The ABCs of Success. And first of all, I want to know why you titled the book, The ABCs of Success.
Well, I didn't actually title it that. Torture Penguin, who published it worldwide, they put that name on it, and it does fit because I had the idea we should, like when you go to change a paradigm, you're changing your habitual behavior. Well, everybody's got little hang-ups in different areas, and sometimes they don't know what they are. Right. So I just took a lot of different ideas that we work with, and I wrote little articles on them, and we put them together. And they're from A to Z in the book. And so that's it fits, everybody has little hangups in their life.
Yeah.
And if they change those little hangups, everything changes, Yeah. And it all goes back to understanding ourselves, understand what makes us tick, and then trying to live the best life we can, trying to improve the quality of our life.
I thought it was a very fitting title, the ABCs of Success, because it's talking about something that's very elementary, the ABCs of something. And this is something we're not taught in school. We're not taught. I went to a traditional university, and student loans and that whole story, but there was not a success class. That's up to you. We're going to teach you some rudimentary skills. We're going to teach you about a particular subject matter, with, English or for something of that nature, or mathematics, but not how to apply it in your life to be successful. There was no Success 101.
There's a lot of things that are not taught in school that we're missing. You will find absolutely brilliant people who are losing. They will have degrees coming off the end of their business card, but they're broke. You'll find other people who are functionally illiterate. They've never learned how to read or write, and yet they may be earning millions of dollars and building large organizations. We do not teach people who they are, what makes them tick. We don't really get them in touch with the spiritual essence of their personality. And we don't get them to stop and ask themselves, why am I doing this? Why am I getting these results? Do results just happen? They don't just happen. We've got to start to understand how and why they've happened. Right. And then change what we want to change. And I have found over the last 50 some years of studying this, I study it every day. I'm absolutely fascinated with it. We can truly have or do or be whatever we want. Mm-hmm. We're God's highest form of creation. We've got to learn how to utilize the potential we've got. And as a matter of fact, I just finished a fairly large coaching call before I got on this call. And that question was asked by someone, if they only had an hour to teach children, if they had an hour a day, if they were given an hour in a class, and I would suspect this woman was given an hour, what would she teach them? And I said, you can teach them anything that you can teach anybody else. We've got to get away from the idea they're children. Mm-hmm. They are human beings. They have a marvelous mind. Now think of this for a moment. The only thing a child is missing is vocabulary and experience. But the mind operates the same way with a young child as it does with an adult. And we teach children languages before they go to school. I had an associate over in Kuala Lumpur. I was going over there for a long time. At 4 years old, the little boy could speak 4 languages. They thought nothing of that. And that's very common in many parts of the world. Now, if a child can learn 4 languages before they go to school, why do we spend so much time getting them to play with blocks? You can teach a child to read before they can talk. Glenn Doman over around Philadelphia is doing that. And when they can talk, you can give them a book on the CAT scan and they'll read it. So I think we have to understand that a child has a marvelous mind, and the mind operates in a very orderly way, and you can teach it to children. I think one of the first things we should teach children is the difference between responding and reacting. I did that with a bunch of kids one time. It changed everything in their life. When we react to a person or a situation, we're giving that person or the situation control over us. When we respond, we're maintaining control.
Yeah. And that's the word responsibility, the ability to respond. And so let's go ahead and dive in and talk a little bit about that structure in the ABCs. One of the first concepts you talked about in the book was the straight A's, right? Because that's one of those idealistic things we want to do in school. We want to hit those straight A's. So what are your straight A's?
Well, we have in here awareness, acceptance, alteration, and achievement. I think awareness is the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, you go way back to King Solomon, he said, "No, you're getting get understanding." Well, understanding and awareness come together. As we understand, we develop an awareness. And when we become aware, that's all we ever can develop is awareness. Like people are not earning 100,000 a year because they want 100 a year. They're earning 100,000 a year because they're not aware of how to earn 100 a month. People are not alone and lonely because they enjoy it. They're alone and lonely because they're not aware of how to develop meaningful relationships. So we want to understand this concept of awareness. That's really what we're after. And then we want acceptance. We've got to accept new ideas. We've got to accept the idea that we have this potential and we've got the ability to change. And when we get that, then we have to learn alteration. We have to alter the concepts that are fixed in our mind. We are programmed genetically and environmentally. All our prejudice, all our hang-ups, they're programmed in. We didn't decide on them. We inherited them. Yeah. And then after birth, of course, we've got our environmental conditions, situations. And the last A would be achievement. And you can always tell, I think, by the results, you're going to know them. You can tell what a person's doing by what they're achieving. You can pretty well take a look at the results a person's getting and know what's going on inside. Yeah. It's not an accident. Everything that happens outside starts inside. Yeah. Everything you're teaching, it all starts in the mind. Precisely. It starts with attitude. Attitude is the key to everything. You know, the only thing that we have complete and absolute control over is our attitude, our way of thinking. Viktor Frankl, that spent the war years in a German concentration camp, wrote a marvelous book, Man's Search for Meaning. He said that regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. We have complete and absolute control over our thinking, and that's where our attitude starts.
Yeah. You know, when I went through that, it would very quickly hit me when I was reading the book. The acceptance was a big one for me because I've seen this consistently be one of the big hangups for a lot of people and not really accepting their power, you know, not accepting that it's up to them to choose their response. It's up to them to choose their attitude, you know, accepting that you actually have the power to change. And that's like a game changer once you get that.
Well, but I think we have to go back and look at how we're raised. We're raised to live through our senses. We go by what we hear, see, smell, taste, touch. Go on out the street, be like the rest of the kids. The only thing you can't be like is another one. We're all unique, but we are raised to go by what we see. We get a report card. The report card tells us what kind of student we are. What the report card really tells us is where our mind was at for a few minutes, maybe 3 weeks ago. We've got to be taught to use our higher faculties. Yeah. We have perception, intuition, the will, reason, imagination, memory. These are all higher faculties, and they are what separates us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. Yeah. You know, we are the only creature on the planet that's totally disoriented in our environment. All the other little creatures on the planet are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. We are different. We have been given the ability to create our own environment, and most people don't know it. And so they complain they have to do this, they have to do that. The truth is they don't have to do anything. Yeah. They choose everything they do. Power of choice. J. Martin Coley wrote a marvelous book called Your Greatest Power. It was a little book, but it was dynamite. And your greatest power is your ability to choose.
You really lay it all on the line too. And I really love your straight approach to, communication also in the book as well. And there was a really important chapter and a powerful section of the book on communication, and in particular, listening, which you called the great compliment. Can you talk about why this matters so much?
Well, when you're listening, first of all, you listen with your emotions. You don't listen with your ears. Frequently, you'll be talking to somebody, they hear what you're saying, but they're not listening to you, and you know they're not listening. When you listen, you're paying attention to a person. You're saying, I believe what you have to say is worthwhile. I am going to give you my full conscious attention. And you're emotionally involved. We listen with our emotions. We hear with our ears.
Right.
And I believe listening is extremely important. I was fortunate enough to study listening through Dr. Ralph Nichols way back in the late 60s. And you don't just listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes, you listen with your body. You'll find when a person's listening, they'll start to lean towards you. You watch people in an audience, maybe in a theater even, or in a seminar, you'll see them, they'll start to lean forward. Yeah. They're really into whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And it's pulling them toward it. It is a compliment, I think, to a person.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this chapter also was really important for me because I feel that, being able to listen is a important quality in building relationships. And the number one influential factor in our health and in our success in life is our relationships. I truly believe that. And so it was, I believe it was Stephen Covey who said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is a big secret for everybody who might be having trouble in communicating and having positive, healthy relationships. Maybe it's with an intimate partner or maybe it's with a business partner, but we really need to understand first the other person. When we're always just kind of natural human propensity, because of how we're programmed, is to me first. Mm-hmm. This is a 50-50 relationship. It's not 50-50. It's literally not. It's 100% your responsibility to show up and to listen first, to understand where the person's coming from so that you can speak their language, if I may say that. And there was also, this goes way back, even St. Francis of Assisi talked about seeking first to understand so that you can be understood, right? So powerful. And it's a really, really important secret. And I hope everybody can walk away with that, to seek first to understand, because it's a really powerful principle in life.
Well, understanding is the polar opposite to worry and doubt. Like in, out, up, down, hot, cold, there's a law of opposites. There's a law of the universe. And understanding can only be developed one way, and that's through study. There is no other way to develop. Now, there's many forms of study. Watching your show is a form of study. There's many forms of study, but you must study if you want to develop understanding. And if you're ever going to understand anybody else, you have to understand yourself. What we really want, and if we study ourselves, that's all I've ever studied, we automatically know the other person. We are all the same in that respect. We're a necessary part of the whole scheme of things. You take any part away from anything and it's not complete any longer. So we're a necessary part of the whole scheme of things. But the real beautiful truth is that we're all the same. We look different, we sound different, we come from different cultures, we eat different food, dress different, speak different languages. But when you get past culture, and culture is nothing but group habit, we're all the same. And when we can really understand that, that's when we're going to start communicating effectively.
Yeah, totally agree.
There's only one problem in the whole world, and that's ignorance.
And I break that word. I'm a big student of lexicon. Ignoring what is, ignoring the truth about all this stuff, Love that. So in the book, you also shared some important insights about leadership. And so can you talk a little bit about what does leadership really mean and how can people apply it in their own day-to-day life?
Well, I think to lead other people effectively, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's a boss and there's a leader. Leader get people excited about improving the quality of whatever it is, themselves, their work, whatever they're doing. People follow leaders because they want to. People don't follow leaders because they have to. That becomes a form of dictatorship.
Yeah.
And that never works. The great leaders, people want to follow. And leaders inspire you. Leaders pull the very best out of you. Leaders know how to look inside and bring the best of you to the surface, cause you to look at the higher side of your own personality. What the world always is looking for, it's leader. Like it's silly to ask who's going to lead. The leader's going to lead. Right. And the leader just automatically emerges. If they threw 50 of us into a committee and say, you don't elect a leader, you may elect one, but the leader's going to lead, and it probably isn't the one that's elected. They know how to get the best out of people.
Absolutely. And everybody listening, every single person is a leader in some form or fashion.
Absolutely.
You know, and it might be in a family context. You know, you're a mom and you're leading the troops, you know, of children that you have, or in a context, you know, maybe you're a college student and you have your friends. You could be a leader in that group when it comes to certain tasks or certain things that you guys are doing together, or something bigger than that. You know, there's always a place that you could find out how you line up with this leadership information. This is why I was so happy that you put that in the book.
Well, we got everything in here from A to Z, Shawn.
Literally, yeah, the ABCs.
We've covered all the bases.
So I loved the section on effectiveness. This is this might be the second time I've ever said pet peeve. This is another pet peeve of mine, because there's a difference between working and being effective, you know, and I want to make that clear distinction for people whenever possible. But I love this section on effectiveness. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between producers and almosts?
Well, you know, I'm having a studio built right behind my house here, and they're just about done. And I was out talking to Max, one of the workers, and he is without question one of the best workers I've ever seen. And he looks after all the details. He makes certain that it's done and done well. You see, the effective person is working towards a particular end, and they want to make sure that everything is really done well. Most people are just busy. They're not goal-oriented. They're not effective. They're busy, and they're busy for busyness sakes. We want to be effective. We want to know what we're doing. We want to know why we're doing it. And then we want to get the very best result that we're capable of getting. And it doesn't matter how good it is, we can make it better. I think better is a beautiful word. I love it. You can always make it better. And we've got to understand there's no right way to do anything. It can be a good way, it can be a valid way, but there's always a better way. The effective person is always looking for a better way to make it happen.
So powerful.
I think that's what your show is doing. I think you're helping people understand how to enjoy a more fulfilled life on all aspects of life. So you're bringing on different personalities, different people who have gained expertise in different areas. And I'm going to broadcast this show through our company because we meet a lot of people. I think you've got a heck of a good show.
I received that, Bob. Thank you so much. You know, there was a great meme going around on the interwebs, you know, on Instagram and on Facebook. There was this little picture. It was like, it was from a movie, but there was a movie about like the ancient Mayans. And so one of the guys like standing over the other guy and looking kind of disappointed in him. And it says, this was an exercise meme. And it said something like, when your gym partner doesn't finish his last rep, and he says to the guy, we will call you almost, right? But almost doesn't count, you know? And that's, you know, it's also a song out there. But, you know, it's just understanding that there's these producers who consistently get stuff done, and then there's the almost. And you can quickly shift that spectrum over to being a producer by applying these principles and, again, just really changing your inner game. So, Bob, I think that this is probably the most, or one of the most important sections of the book where you talked about self-image. And this is something that a lot of people battle with, you know, their picture of themselves and how they view themselves. So talk a little bit about some of your insights in that realm.
Yes.
Well, you know, that, Shawn, is without question one of the most important subjects. Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a phenomenal book on it, Psycho-Cybernetics, way back around 1960. And it was considered one of the greatest psychological breakthroughs of his generation. Self-image, unfortunately, is developed before the person can even walk or talk. Our self-image is formed in our little life when our subjective mind is wide open. It's part of it's genetic and the other parts environmental. Our mind is wide open, our subconscious mind. And whatever's going on around us goes right into our subconscious mind. Like almost all welfare recipients are third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients.
Yeah.
Now, do you know there's geniuses locked up in those welfare areas?
Yeah.
Every one of them has genius within them. They have perfection within them. But it'll never come to the surface because they don't wake up. I had an absolutely horrible self-image. That's why I wouldn't learn. That's why I wouldn't go to school. I never thought anything of me. I wouldn't try to get a good job. And when I started to read Think and Grow Rich, and I started to listen to a man by the name of Ray Stanford, he got me looking at myself. He said, Bob, you're telling me reasons why you can't win, why you're broke. Let's go to the other side and talk about how you can. And he got me thinking of all this. And then I got into really studying self-image. And I found that we do have a cybernetic mechanism in our mind. It's like a thermostat. It's a science of control and communication in the animal and some machines. And in this cybernetic mechanism, this self-image, it controls what we're doing. And if we wander off course, it'll bring us right back. If a person's overweight, it's how they see themselves. And they say, I'm going to lose weight. They've got to change the image or they're never going to lose weight. Yeah. And they shouldn't lose it anyway. They should release it. Yeah. When you lose anything, you're programmed to look for it. Right. And you always find it. So we've got to understand that we have an image of ourselves in our subconscious mind, but we have the godlike ability to change it. I worked at changing my self-image. I changed the way I talk. I changed the way I walk. I changed the way I dress. I changed the way I work. I changed the way I study. I changed everything about me, a little bit at a time. So the image or the person you're looking at now is not the person that picked up this book 55 years ago. And I modeled it. I built the image, and then I caused myself to live that way. And it caused a lot of discomfort. William James gives the idea. He said, act like the person you want to become. I encourage people in our programs to get Stella Adler's book, The Art of Acting. The Art of Acting is a great book. Stella Adler never actually wrote the book. A man named Kissel took all her lessons after she died and turned it into a book. So when you read the book, you're going to her acting classes. Stella Adler was a phenomenal acting teacher. She studied under Stanislavski, the Russian who perfected method acting. Marlon Brando wrote the foreword in the book, and he was the first method actor to hit star status. But we have to, when we're changing the self-image, we have to change the way we act. And other people have difficulty with it. They know you the way they are. They don't want you to change. Because if you change, they have to adapt to the change in you. Yeah. See, people don't resist change. People resist being changed.
Yes.
We've got to change ourselves. We've got to build a new image, a picture in our mind. We've got to see ourselves the way we want to be, and then we have to live with it. You go to the gym workout, that's what you do. You build a picture of how you want to see this arm, and you build that picture, and then you build the body. Well, you build the life in your mind. Take your pen and write out how you want to live. And always start by writing, I'm so happy and grateful now that. And the second you write it, you've got it intellectually. The moment you impress it upon your emotional mind, you've got it emotionally. And it's only a period of time till it manifests on the physical plane. Yeah. Spirit works from a higher to a lower potential.
I've got to share this with you. You know, that principle, that opening phrase, the prefix to changing our life, I'm so happy and grateful now that. I learned that from you many years ago. And it really helped to be the catalyst for this show to even exist. Yeah. You know, this was something that I was in my senior year of college, still not knowing how I've, just recovered from a really serious health issue myself, but I'm still not understanding how to share this. And I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and it's like, well, should I open a gym? I don't want anything to do with that right now. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to serve. And just starting to script out what I wanted my life to look like, all of these pieces just kind of started to fall into place, funny enough. But it wasn't like magic. I was taking action in the world. I was moving towards those things every day with this passion and with this consistency because I knew where I was going. And I always like to share this with people whenever I get the opportunity is that the number one driving force of the human being is to stay congruent with the ideas that you hold of yourself. So if you're perceiving yourself, as Bob is talking about, as a person who is struggling and overweight and I just can't seem to crack the code, or I'm always broke, you might get a little bit, but it's going to come right back. You're going to come right back to where your thermostat is set, because you have to affirm what you believe about yourself. It's the number one driving force of human beings. Also changing the person that you become. Instead of worrying about the external thing of weight loss, it's understanding that I have to change the person that's coming to the party. I have to change the person that's coming to the fit party. The inner game. How does that person look? How does that person walk? How does that person talk? How does that person function in a relationship? How does that person dialogue when it comes to food within themselves? Is this person afraid each meal, or is this person joyful about the opportunity of adding something wholesome to their body? All these things, that inner game is going to help to create that outer game. And the last thing that I picked up from what you just shared, Bob, which is so phenomenal, which is stop right now this losing weight. Never say it again. I'm losing weight. Release it, because you just said it. When you lose something, the natural human tendency is to find it again. So let it go. Let it go.
Well, it's not just a human tendency, it's programming.
Yes, you said
literal program in your subconscious. It's automatic. It's like a child in school. Let's say they're getting a C and D average. So they get grounded. They have to stay in after school. They've got to study. And they go and they have a test and they get a B. Wonderful. Now, the restrictions are listed. They'll go right back to a C and D average. They were pushing. It doesn't work. Force negates. They never change the image of themselves. If we take children and teach them about the image, have them write their own report card, have them see themselves with those grades, and they operate like they've got those grades, that's the grades they're going to get. See, I have proved this to myself. I proved it in maximum security prisons when I was going in there. I proved it in corporations, and I proved it in my own life. I went from being a very unhappy, confused individual to being a very happy, healthy, wealthy individual. I'll be 81 in a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks, and I've got more energy than most people in their 20s. I have absolutely no intentions of slowing down. That's a bunch of nonsense. You see, we grow up, we've got this program. You get older, you want to go a little slower, take it easy. That's a bunch of crap. If all the power is omnipresent, you shouldn't have to slow down. You should be speeding up. You've got more knowledge, you should go faster. Yeah. You've got more energy. See, the triggering mechanism to release energy is desire. Well, we see the difference. We say male, female. Like females earn 70% of what men earn. That's nonsense. That's an old idea. It's historic. We should get rid of it. But we say this culture, this group, that group. We've got to really understand we're all the same. We're God's highest form of creation. All the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is omnipresent. The way to build a cell phone has always been here. Yet we had to become aware of how to build it. All the knowledge, all the power there ever was is omnipresent. We are God's highest form of creation. Our spiritual DNA is perfect, and spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. So that's what we should be moving towards, greater results.
Always dropping knowledge bombs. And by the way, this takes me back to the when we had on Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and when she said that age is no barrier, it's just a limitation you place on your mind. And Bob really being the example of that and talking about some of the faulty conditioning. We just believe like, okay, so I'm getting older, this is supposed to happen. You're literally programming every cell in your body to listen to that, and then you get to hear from somebody like Bob who's playing at a high level. And it can be a paradigm shifter, but you have to tune yourself into that, because there's 10,000 other messages saying otherwise, That's right. But we still have that choice, and it's really about, again, one of the principal things in the book is acceptance, that this is the way that it is. So
Shawn, what we should really do, we don't need to worry about 10,000 other things. What we want to go to is the truth. Let's forget the facts. The facts are always changing. Go to the truth. The truth is that you and I are made from a single power that is all-knowing and all-powerful. And I don't care where you're from, I don't care what your background is, I don't care what you've done up to this moment, we are loaded with potential. Age, gender, none of that has anything to do with it. The thing that has to do with it is, what do you want? Wants are of a spiritual nature. You don't want to get, you want to grow. So we should always be going after bigger and better goals.
So something I got from your book really right off the bat was it just kind of made me tune into the importance of my imagination. And you went right in on how our education system can kind of maybe accidentally, maybe kind of push it out of us. So can you talk a little bit about that and how important the imagination is when trying to construct our life and achieve the goals we want?
Well, your imagination is everything, really. You know, you can use your imagination to bring the future into the present.
Yeah.
And that alters the vibration you're in and alters everything in your life. Unfortunately, when we're little kids, first of all, we're encouraged to use our imagination,
right,
because that gets us out from under their feet, the big people.
Yeah.
And we may be playing with pots and pans, but in our mind, it's not pots and pans. And so they leave us alone to do whatever we're doing. We're quiet and we're not causing any trouble. And so we're actually encouraged to use our imagination. It would be, I think, fascinating to see what's going on in our little mind when we're just on all fours, you know?
Yeah.
Well, then we go to school, and that's called not paying attention.
Right.
And you get punished for that. Well, a kid's pretty smart. You only have to get punished for something 2 or 3 times, and whatever it is, you'll stop doing it. And so we stop using our imagination. It's the most magnificent creative faculty man's been given. And then here we are, adults. We have great big companies and little wee tiny creative departments, when the truth is everybody in every department is creative, but they don't know it. And it's the imagination where everything begins. The radio that you're broadcasting on, or the TV that you're broadcasting on, it was nothing but an idea in somebody's imagination.
Right.
They tuned in and they could see it. And when they could see it, they were on the frequency they had to be on to attract what they had to do to manifest it. And the ones that were strong and held on to their visions, they would win. But most of us were beat up about using the imagination, so we stopped using it.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful tool.
For me, it just sparked my mind and thinking back to that time of being a kid and then working in clinical practice and seeing so many people over the years, adults and parents of kids who are stricken with a condition. You know, they're dubbed with the title ADD or ADHD. And oftentimes, and this is something I love having Bob on just to kind of reiterate this, but you know, when we're at that age, one of the worst things that you could do to a kid is to tame them. You know, to take a kid who's all about full out play and tell them to sit down for 7 hours in a chair and behave themselves, right? It's almost like some kind of weird punishment, right? You know, so things are changing in the school system slowly but surely, but it's just understanding we're setting ourselves up and our children for a potential lifetime of problems, because even if they make it through that type of conditioning, to go back and to truly be successful, because as Bob mentioned, and I want to reiterate this point, every single thing that we're surrounded by right now came from somebody's imagination. Mm-hmm. The floor we're standing on, the clothes we're wearing, the devices that we're listening to this through, it was all from somebody's imagination. That's how important your imagination is to achieving your goal.
Nothing is created or destroyed. And everything is already here. We were talking about school there, Shawn. I was reading something where Madame Montessori said, we send kids to school and we treat them like they're an empty cup. And we've got to fill that cup up with knowledge. She said, the truth is, the cup is full. Our objective is to draw it out of the cup. We've already got it. And if we can grasp the concept that the energy that we're made of, the energy that flows to and through us, is a creative energy. And as we build an image in our mind, we flip ourselves onto a frequency of thought, because thought operates on frequencies. It's energy. It's the most potent form of energy there is. It's more potent than a laser. And we've been given the ability to think. And when we build our imagination, we flip ourselves onto a frequency. Now, if we understand that, then regardless of all the stuff that we have to go through, all the objections that we run up against, all the walls we run into, if we hold the image in our mind, the way will be shown. because we're going to stay in the vibration that we have to be in to attract it. Attraction is very real, but you can't attract to you something you're not in harmony with, and you're not in harmony with it if you haven't got the image in your mind.
Wow, so true. I think that it's probably one of the most foundational things is clarity and getting clear on what you want and having the imagination to think external from your circumstances is what I'm really picking up from Bob. And one of the things that hinders us, Bob, is that we feel that we have to do something. And you talk about this in the book. I have to go to this job. I have to. But you say that we actually choose everything that we do. It's not something that we have to do. Nothing is. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if we let the paradigm control us, we have to do it. If we wake up and understand we're the highest form of creation on the planet, there's not one thing that you can think of that you have to do. Everything is a choice. You know, J. Martin Coe wrote a little book. It was a beautiful little book. It's called Your Greatest Power. And your greatest power is your ability to choose. And so we choose everything we do. I was speaking at a meeting earlier this morning, and I was saying, you know, all over the world, there's people in traffic jams in their car, and they're going to a job they don't want to go to. They're working for someone they don't enjoy working with. They're doing something they don't like to do, and they'll sit in that traffic for an hour every morning or more, and an hour every night coming home, and they've spent their whole day doing what they didn't love to do, and that they don't understand they're choosing to do it. They could quit, but they don't know that. You see, ignorance is the only problem. When we eliminate the ignorance, Solomon put it very well, very wise king. In all you're getting, get understanding. Let's understand who we are and what we are. Let's understand we are God's highest form of creation. Let's understand we were created in God's image. We got the whole concept confused, and we've created God in our image, and we've messed up for ourselves.
Bob, I want you to touch on this because I think we were maybe close to your birthday last time we talked. So how long have you been teaching this stuff to people, and how old are you right now?
I'm 81.
And this is like 5 decades, right, that you've been speaking and teaching?
50. I'm in my 55th year, and I'm just warming up, Shawn.
See?
I have absolutely no idea slowing down. See, I really believe the older you get, the more energy you should have.
Well,
Yes.
see?
Because you don't get energy, you release energy. And if you study and if you do your work and you take care of yourself, look after your mind and body, and you understand the laws, you're going to have more energy as you get older than you had when you're younger. So you should be able to go faster and accomplish more.
Yeah.
The idea is speed up, calm down.
The fact that we choose everything that we do, you shared the story of Viktor Frankl and in the book, Man's Search for Meaning. So can you talk a little bit about that premise and the big takeaway that you got from that book?
Well, Frankl was, such an extraordinary human being. He's a Viennese psychiatrist that spent the war years in a concentration camp. And he said, regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse that he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think.
Yeah.
You may be forced into doing things, but no one can cause you to think something you don't want to think. And that's very important. I had an interesting situation, Shawn, happen, and it's going to be more interesting, I think, tomorrow morning. Gina, who has worked with me for 30 years, phoned me, and she said, Bob, we had a young lady phone the office today and said she thinks you know her father-in-law. And then she said, you know it, Jimmy, and I'm not going to mention his last name. And I said, I know him better than you. And I started to track around in my mind. It's been 54 years since I saw him. I was in his wedding 58 years ago, but I haven't seen him for 54 years. And I phoned him 2 days ago, and I'm going to go and see him tomorrow morning. I asked him what he's doing, and he said, nothing. And I said, well, you must do something. No, he said, I don't do anything. He said, I'm retired. He said, I go and He said, on Tuesday is the only day that I'm busy. I go to an airman's club. He had been in the Air Force, and he said, we meet at the airport. And he said, it's sort of nice getting together and chitty-chatting about what we did. Here's a guy, apparently he's healthy. He's 1 year younger than me. And we chummed around when we were kids. Here he is doing nothing. It's like we came to a fork in the road. I went one way, he went the other way. And I thought, what a shame. And he asked me when I was talking to him, he said, do you smoke? And I said, oh, heavens, no. Well, he said, I smoke. I said, well, why don't you quit? Oh, he said, I like it. He said, that's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is have a cigarette. I said, well, the truth is you don't smoke at all. I said, the cigarette smokes, you suck. You should understand what you're doing to yourself. But you see, we both had a choice. We were going down the same path. Mm-hmm. At 26, I decided I don't like what I'm doing with my life. I was losing. I was unhappy, sick, and broke. And I made a change. And I have never looked back. He never made that choice.
We all have that choice, no matter where we are, because as you just mentioned, he can change now. According to research, individuals that retire, their mortality rate skyrockets compared to individuals who work well into older age, continue working.
Because, you see, work's made for us. We're not made for work. Work is made for us. Work is and we should be doing what we love.
Yes.
So work is, it gives us the reason to have this mental activity. And if it's constructive and it's good mental activity, you're going to be in a good physical vibration. You're going to be in a good intellectual vibration. I've been asking questions all over the world for a long, long time. And I boiled it down to three things, because it doesn't matter if I'm in China, in Buenos Aires, in Brazil, or Europe, or the Middle East, or here. I keep asking people, what do you want? What do you really want? Because I really believe that I can show them how to get what they want. And I broke it down. Not everybody wants to be wealthy, but everyone wants to earn enough that they don't have any financial concerns. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing they want. They want to earn enough money, they don't have any financial concerns. Number two, they want to be able to wake up in the morning and be enthusiastic about how they're going to spend their day. And number three, they want to associate with people that are enthusiastic, they're upbeat, and they're doing something creatively constructive. But they don't believe they can get it. And the truth is they can. And you talk about health. That is the healthy state of mind that a person's got to be in if they want to really enjoy life.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I see this time and time again. People would come into my clinic over the years, just like, what can I take for this? What can I take for that? And of course, wanting some nutrition advice, some exercise advice. But I've seen this over and over that the most influential thing on our health and our well-being is our relationships and also what we do for a living.
What we do.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I love the paradigm shift that Bob's already providing today in relationship to how we view our work. It's not that we're working. It's kind of like, I think he said something along the lines of, it's working us.
Work is made for us.
Yes.
We're not made for work.
Yes.
The concept is that you have to go to work to earn money. Well, the truth is the people that earn the most money do very little work. Working is not how you earn money. Work is how you develop your mind.
Yes.
Work is how you develop yourself. It's made for us. So we should do what is appealing to us, what we enjoy doing, and give it everything we've got.
Yeah. Let's dive in and talk about this right now, because a lot of people listening want that so badly, but in their mind it's popping up, I've got these bills. I've got all this responsibility. I've got kids. I've got school to pay for. I've got all these things. How can I just do what I really want to do, Bob?
All those things you mentioned are true. And they go on the left-hand side or on one sheet of paper. And on the other sheet of paper is all the reasons why they can. Those are reasons why they can't. And if they spend time thinking of why they can't, they're going to find it. Because whatever you look for, you'll find. Seeking, you'll find is good advice. What they've got to do is make a clear written statement of exactly how they want to live. And they've got to commit it to writing. They've got to take a pen and put it in writing in the present tense. And then make just an irrevocable decision. I am going to do this. I am going to figure this out. Now, a good idea would be to go to someone that's living that way and say, this is what I want. Can you give me some steps on how to get it? But they don't do that. Most people stay on the sheet of why they can't, and then they go and talk to the guy next door who's totally engrossed in that, and they start talking about why they can't, and they talk about, and they're involved with that. You got to get involved with people who are going to figure out how to do it. And I really believe the secret is go to someone that's demonstrating by results they know what they're talking about, and then do exactly what they tell you. That is how I changed my paradigm, Shawn. That's how I got on the right track. I found someone that knew a lot more than me, and he said, if you will do what I tell you, you can have anything you want. I did not believe that, but I believed he believed it. And then he followed up by saying, Bob, your way's not working. Why don't you try mine? I thought, you don't even have to be very bright to understand that makes sense. And that's what I started to do. And I have never stopped doing that. I have always followed the advice of people that were doing better than I was doing at what I wanted to do.
Wow. There's something in the book that's reminded me of when you talk about going beyond goal setting, and it's really acknowledging where you are now, and I think that's kind of I see you shaking your head. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's everything. You see, I can say, I want to go to Cincinnati. But if I don't know where I am, man, I could drive right past Cincinnati and not know I was only a mile away. I've got to know where I am if I want to get to Cincinnati. And if I don't know where I am, it doesn't matter if I've got it figured out where I want to go. Right. I'm never going to get there. And where I am now, that is where I'm at intellectually, where I'm at emotionally, where I'm at physically. I've got to sit down and say, why am I doing this? Why am I here? It took me 10 years to figure that out, and that was after I was earning over $1 million a year. I had changed my life, and I didn't know what I had done. And I took a look, and I thought, I grew up with the idea you got to be really smart if you're going to earn a lot of money. I'm not very smart. I'm earning a lot of money. I grew up, if you don't go to school, you can't win. You won't get a good job. I didn't have a good job. I owned a company. We were in 7 cities in 3 countries. So I thought, that isn't true. And I started to question everything I believed. You watch television, they'll tell, eat this, it's good for you. It could kill you. But we just watch the tube and create a head to match. We've got to know where we are. We've got to know why we're doing what we're doing. Why do I get up at this time? Why do I go to bed at this time? Why do I spend my day doing this? Why am I earning this? Why am I talking to them so much? Why do I pay attention to those people? We've got to ask ourselves they're very hard questions. And we've got to get objective. We're the only creature on the planet that can get outside of ourselves and look at ourselves and see what we're doing. And then say, why am I doing that? Is that serving me? Am I spending my days doing something that serves me? And if it's not, you got to quit. Just stop it right here, right now. There's somebody listening to this show right now. And what they want to do is get super serious. If what you're doing is not giving you what you want, make up your mind now. I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to go to somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about, and I'm going to start doing it. I want to be healthy. I'm going to talk to Shawn. I want to get wealthy. I'm going to talk to this person. I want to build a business. I'm going to talk to the person who's already built one. And then do what they tell you.
You in this chapter, you talked about how profoundly simple this is. Yet people are not. It is so simple. And I want everybody to understand this timeless saying that's been just rippled throughout our human civilization, know thyself. Know thyself. It's really important to do that self-assessment and know who you are so that you can truly understand what you want, what you're capable of. But also, I want people to walk away understanding your current circumstances is not your destination necessarily, unless you choose to stay there, because it's really your choice. And I can very much resonate with Bob and his story and, just growing up in very poor conditions for, here in the United States, poor. But we have to understand all of this stuff is in context because everybody listening, chances are you're in the top 1 or 2% of income in the world because most of the world is living on $1 a day, so it's understanding we have tremendous opportunity here and even being able to step up and get connected to this kind of information. But I remember my brother actually reminded me of this when we did the show talking about my story. And I shared how when I moved in with my mom around, age 7-ish, 6 or 7, and now I can go to the corner store and buy penny candy and I could take $1 and buy 100 pieces of candy. He was like, whoa, bro, it wasn't $1. It was a food stamp. So I came from that paradigm. So growing up through that and just the messages that were ingrained in me. You know, my mom, I'd ask, hey, Mom, can I have, she's like, do I look like I'm made of money? You know, money doesn't grow on trees. I was like, well, it kind of did, you know, for a minute. But then as I got older and started working, I would make money, but I would find a way to creatively get rid of it. For me, it was tying to something bigger than myself, you know, to help turn it around. And I really figured that, you know, it's that Abraham Lincoln quote, you can't help the poor if you're one of them.
Right.
And so I decided, you know, I could touch so many more lives. I can help so many more people if I build myself up in every single area.
The people listening to this show are in a very small percent of this top percent, or they wouldn't be listening to the show.
Right.
So I think a person has to realize when they're looking at where they are, you have to ask, why am I listening to this show? Because there's something in you. Your soul is craving more creative energy. And you are doing what you should be doing. So you should give yourself a pat on the back just for turning this on. And then ask yourself, am I doing this? See, I've got this book. I've been reading this book every day since the 21st of October, 1961. Now, I may read the same paragraph every day for a month. I want to understand, where was his mind at? Am I doing this? Have I internalized this? Is this me? I read something in a book that is really good. Listen, the rich man, the poor man, the good man, the thief. Individually, so different is this same world. What made them different? Their perception.
Yes. Yep.
They were all the same. The rich man, the poor man, the good man, the thief. They're all made from the same stuff. They've all been blessed with the same faculties. They see the world so different, and they're all in the same world.
Yeah. This is true across whatever career path you're choosing. You know, even if you're doing something you love right now, please understand that there are people doing what you're doing that are multimillionaires, and there are people that you're doing that are struggling just to pay their bills. You know, there are personal trainers who are extremely wealthy, and then there's personal trainers who are living day to day and can barely buy food. I was one of them, you know, and then there's individuals like Bob actually is a great example. You know, he shares a story in the book, and he started off cleaning floors, right? And there are people who clean floors, and he turned that into a huge multi-million-dollar business. But there are people cleaning floors that are literally, that's what they're doing, and they're barely making it. And then there's multimillionaires. It's really, it's the same thing, but they're doing it in a certain way. That's the thing. And that's what he talked about in that book.
That's what got me. The book is about what I've learned. And what you just said is what got me to try and figure this out. Here I am. Somebody'd say, you know, I'm earning all this money. I'm doing so well. I'm living in a great neighborhood. And people say, well, what do you do? I'm cleaning offices, but I'm listening to Earl Nightingale's Strangest Secret, and I'm reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich every day. And then one day I thought, but a lot of people are cleaning offices. They're not doing what I'm doing. A lot of people have listened to Earl's record and read Napoleon Hill's book, but they're not doing what I was doing. So what is the difference? What happened? And you can be absolutely brilliant and be losing. And you might be 6 bits short when it comes to being smart and be winning. It's the decisions we make. It's the choices. It's locking in. It's the focus. That's where the imagination starts it all.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, about locking in. And I just want to talk about a little point here. And this is straight from The Art of Living from Bob Proctor and his wonderful co-author, Sandy Gallagher. And the statement says that when you really want something, you will always get whatever is required to have it. Always. This is an absolute law of your being. And that really brought to my forefront that whenever we, in my life, my family, the people that I know, whenever we truly wanted something, no, let me scratch that word. Whenever we needed something, when our backs were against the wall, we always found a way to make it happen. You know, but the thing was, it took for things to be bad enough for us to move. You always have that capacity. I know this is resonating with some of the people listening. You've had times when you didn't know how you was going to get something done, to take care of a loved one, to pay a bill, to get something you might have needed for school, for a trip, whatever it might be, but you found a way. And it's because the urgency was there. So how can we turn that urge into urgency, Bob? Is there any strategies that you have to get people moving again?
I think we have to understand there's no inspiration in needs. If you're working towards needs, you're never going to be inspired. You've got to be working toward what you want. I believe wants come. I think our spiritual DNA is perfect. There's perfection in it. That's the essence of who we are. And it's jabbing us in the consciousness. Want this, want this. We might see a nice car. I want one of them. See a beautiful home. I want that. We see someone in a beautiful body. I want that. And we want these things, but we instantly let them go because we don't know we can have what we want. If you know how to get what you want, it's probably not what you want. It's what you think you can do. You've got to go beyond your own thinking. You've got to get out of the box. You've got to get away from that paradigm. And when we go after what we want, it causes a respectable amount of discomfort because we're stepping out of the box. We're stepping out of the paradigm. If we're not prepared to handle that discomfort and keep on going, we're going to stay where we are. When we build the image of what we want and lock in, we fuse with it. We become it. And that is when it starts to move into form. You've got to fuse with the good you desire. And that's exactly what you're doing when you build the image of what you want. You don't have to know how to get it. The joy of life is figuring out how to get it. And you become aware one step at a time. One step at a time. Just pay attention to what you're doing. Give it the best you got. Robert Russell is a great author. He's been gone now a long time, but he said there's no secret to becoming great. He said do little things in a great way every day. And I thought, what wonderful advice.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to give everything we've got to what we're doing than it is to struggle.
As you talk, I've got questions for you, and then there's so many more pop up, and one of the things that comes to mind right now is the discipline to actually do this. And this is the thing, you dedicated a specific part of the book talking about the only quality that we really need is that discipline to do what you just said, but the discipline to actually do that. So
that's right near the start of the book, and for good reason. First of all, I grew up with the idea. I went in the Canadian Navy, and I thought I knew something about discipline when I got out of the Navy. That was a form of punishment that I mistook for discipline. Discipline is something you can give to yourself. Nobody else can give it to you. It's the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. This I will do. You know, if a person's going to go on a healthy diet, if a person's going on a healthy workout program, they've got to have discipline. If a person's going after something they don't know how to get, they've got to have discipline. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. This I will do. Now, doesn't matter what happens, you're going to do it. You're going to make it happen. And the reward is the satisfaction you get from doing something that you didn't even think you could do, that you didn't know how to do, and you did it because you disciplined yourself. It's a magnificent quality. I am a very disciplined person. I wasn't always. When I realized that this was really the linchpin, this was the key, this was the thing that made the difference, I made up my mind I was going to become disciplined. This I will do, and I'll do it.
Success is not something you do every now and then. It's how you consistently live your life. And I love the word discipline because as soon as I hear it, I think about the word disciple. And for me, that really means becoming a disciple of yourself and your own mission and your own purpose. And that kind of lighting the way for everything else in your life. We'll
have to do a show with you sometime. I made a program called The Mission in Commission. You're going to find the people that do well, make the big dollars, they're on a mission.
Yeah.
And I made it based on disciples that I had studied.
Yeah.
It's so important. Yeah. I don't care what you're doing. Like, you're disciplined or you wouldn't be doing this show. The whole group of you there, you deserve so much credit doing this show. You know you're helping people way beyond even what you know. There's people getting help that you don't even ever hear about. And the universe hears about it, though, and it sends it all back. That's the beautiful part. You know, I had a young man today talk about earning money, about working. I said, no. And I quoted Hill. And you could substitute money for health or for anything. He said, if you are one of those people that believe that hard work and honesty alone is going to bring riches, he said, perish the thought it's not true. Riches, when they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work. Riches come, if they come at all, in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck. Now, you can say that true about good health, about good physical health, about good mental health. It comes as a response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles. The definite demands, you got to demand it of yourself. Nobody else can demand it. You got to demand it of yourself. This I will do.
What I'm going to just put out there for everybody to do, this assignment today, is to write down what you actually want. Write down 10 things that you want to accomplish this year in 2016. And here's the thing, I did this before. I actually did a program myself about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago of 100 goals in 100 days. And it took me several days just to even write 100 goals out. But I'll tell you what, I accomplished about 40% of those goals. It wasn't 100, right? You know, I didn't bat 100, but even, you know, in Major League Baseball, if you bat 300, right, you can make millions of dollars, you know? So it was
you
really
were batting
powerful.
400.
Yeah, exactly. And so and there were small things and big things. And I think that's important, too, to kind of build up that muscle that whatever I write down, I can create. Now, here's the thing. This is the caveat. When I was writing out what I really wanted, it was extremely hard because what kept coming up was what I thought was possible for me, you know, and to stretch that. And, you know, I had to look to mentors like Bob and look to other people who've already broken out of that paradigm. And this is why I just want to reiterate how important that is to follow and model people like Bob was saying, because that really helped to usher me to jettison the old life and to usher me into a new reality. And so be honest. As crazy as it might seem, as random as it might seem, be honest about what you want. Allow yourself to want what you really want. So do that step first. And then to couple that, after you get 10 things, don't think about the hows or whys, just 10 things. Then write down maybe 4 or 5, we'll say 5 different ways that you can help to make that happen. They might be small things like send an email to such and such, or watch this program. You know, small things could be great things, but I'm just issuing that challenge right now for you today as we move into the new year to do that. This book, The Art of Living, what was the inspiration behind putting this book out right now? You know, you're 81 years old, 81 years young. Why this book right now?
It was actually Sandy Gallagher that encouraged me to do this. She said, I want to do this with you. And she said, you're teaching all this. Let's turn it into a book. And, you know, I don't think you place enough value on what you do yourself from time to time. You're busy doing it. And she says, you know, I have no idea how many people this would help. And there's a lot of people going to get this and read it that wouldn't ever be able to listen to you or attend a program. So I said, okay, and that's how we decide to do it. That's coming out, I think, the end of the month. We got another one coming out. We're under contract with the publisher to do Paradigm Shift. So we'll dig into this deeper. You know, I just thinking, there's a guy you got to have on the show. He's really into health. Do you know Nick Halleck?
I do not know.
Oh, I'm going to introduce him to you. This guy's amazing. He was very sick, and he made a list. You made us think of it when you said the 100 things. This guy has done it all, and he's earned it on his own. He's become an astronaut. He paid $20 million, the Russians, to make him an astronaut. He's slept in the pyramids. He's been one of few people on that 3 people submersive, where he went down in a subbit with 2 other people and had lunch sitting on the deck of the Titanic. He has been down in this new cave in Mexico they just found that have these giant crystals. A phenomenal guy. He's written a book. You can look it up. I did the foreword for his book for him called The Thrillionaire.
You know, I've asked you this question before, but, you know, you grow, as you know, every single day you grow and evolve. Yeah. So I'm interested to hear your response. What is the model that you're here to create with the way that you're living your life right now?
Well, I believe if we will do what we love doing, I love what I do, and do it as well as we can possibly do it, I mean, really put everything in it every day. You only have to do it today. Then I think people are going to watch you better than listen to you, and they're going to follow you. And that's really the way I live. I encourage all the people in our company to do that. We've got phenomenal employees in the company. Sandy Gallagher is such a marvelous example. She was a super successful banking attorney. You know, buy banks, sell banks, merge banks. And she fell in love with what I was doing. She says, I got to do what that guy's doing. And she followed us. She's made a big difference. She runs the company. Yeah. But that's the model. I just want to be the best Bob Proctor I can be, because I believe everything I can say about me is true about you. Everything I can learn about me, you just have to study yourself. You mentioned the two words, know thyself. That's been inscribed over the Ark of Apollo in Delphi for over 2,000 years. And so I just study me, and by knowing me, I know you, because we're all the same. We look different, we're different shades, we speak different languages, we have different cultures, but we are all the same. We're God's highest form of creation. We've all been blessed with the same mental faculties. And it's our obligation to do God's work here. And somebody will say, well, what God's work? God's work is creation. He's a creator, creation. So we were made in God's image. We were given creative faculties. So we should be creating every day. And we want to be creating ourselves into a better person than we are.
Oh, yes. Love it. Yes. So good, Bob.
And I want to ask you a question I like to ask my guests. So what is the model that you are here to set, Bob, with the way that you're living your life?
My whole purpose is to live and work in a prosperous environment that encourages productivity and pleasure, so that we can be better equipped to serve our family, our company, our community, our nation, and ultimately the world.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like to lead people to the truth that lies within themselves.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to optimize your mindset and to achieve your goals faster.
People say to me, well, why do you do your meditations in the morning? I always say, easy. Because if I can overcome myself at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is easy. That's the biggest mastery, right? Is the self.